Report. I am Pugs Moran. We do this every Monday through Thursday. Hold on, everything's not ready yet. Monday through Friday, noon till whenever. Hot topics, current events, headlines, all the stuff that people are buzzing about that isn't the politically divisive nonsense. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to talk about that stuff. We ain't talking about that stuff. We do the other stuff. You know, the kind of stuff we used to always talk about. Now, hold on a second. I got to make a couple of changes around here. We are working. We're a little handicapped. We're a little bit handicapped today. I'll tell you what. I mean, I'm not, excuse me, although I am coughing. Apropos of nothing. That's just a random cough. We're handicapped today because we've been having some difficulties with the show. We've been having some difficulties trying to share materials, show videos, watch things, which is something that I like to do. I like to observe things. It's a big part of what I want this show to be. Can't do it. There's some kind of a problem that we're having. We don't know what it is. The best minds, all the best people are working on it. So we're going to try and figure out what that is. One of our next steps is we're going to be moving the studio, the beautiful 1%er compound comfort. We're going to abandon the Comfort Nest Studios. Yes, that's right. It's a sad day, but it's just, you know, there's too much stuff going on here out at the 1%er compound in beautiful Highland Park, Texas. So we are going to move the studio over into the big house in a studio room, and we're gonna hopefully that's gonna be a better connection that will lead to better results. Other than that, I don't know. So give that a day or two to happen. We can't do it today because it's raining around here. Oh, by the way, I gotta close this window. I gotta close the window. Hold on, let me close the window, because to my neighbors who don't know what I'm doing, they're just going to hear echoing throughout the neighborhoods a person just screaming about current events. And, you know, they don't have the context of that, so the police will be called. Let me just close the window so I can have a little privacy here while we share this afternoon. It's another reason why we will be exiting the Comfort Nest Studios here, high atop the 1%er compound in beautiful Highland Park, Texas. It's one of the other reasons. Excuse me. Today's a beautiful day. Well, I mean, it's beautiful temperature-wise. We've been having air conditioning issues up here in the studio, the guest house studios. So the windows have been open. Today's a beautiful day to have the windows open because there's a breeze, it's rainy. You know, it's just a really nice day. It's a nice open windows, get that cool, cleansing spring breeze through the house. It's beautiful for that. Can't do that in this house anymore now because we've got a dog who is known to jump out the windows. That's right. We're on the second floor. It's a good 15-foot drop to the pavement below. And we've got a dog that somehow thinks that, you know, if she sees a raccoon, she's going out that window now. So this is no longer a safe environment. This is no longer a place. So we're going to give a shot at the studios in the house. We're going to hook straight into their main internet line. I don't know what any of this stuff means. These I don't know what the words are. But there's a big, giant, strong internet portal somewhere up there, and we're going to plug right into it. And hopefully that'll solve some of our problems. But until then, I will not be able to share any audio or video or anything of that. We're getting to the bottom of it. And we can't move the studio today. Can't move the studio today because of the weather. It's raining. There's puddles. Stuff's got to be carried. It's electronics. No, we're not going to do it. It's not going to be rainy when we're moving all the electronic equipment. A dog cuts in front of me on the path between the guest house and the house, and I fall. A laptop falls in a puddle. I don't think so. So just give it a day or two. All right, so let's get started with today's show. Oh, we do have an update here. Okay, so this is the High Noon Report with me, Pugs Moran, and it is brought to you, as you know, by our new friends at Sacred Oil. Sacred Oil, that's right, for all your sacred oil needs, CBDs, cannabinoids, edibles, vapes, all of that stuff. Excuse me. I have had some sort of like throat phlegm thing. I'm not sick. This is not being sick. This is just irritating. So excuse me as I sing the praises of Sacred Oils, located at 13740 Midway Road. That's Suite 522. That's 13740 Midway Road, Suite 522. Call them 469-951-3910. Sacred Oils. Here's the newest information that I just received prior to signing on here. Excuse me. Sacred Oils. Pugs 20. If you call there, if you go in the store, if you buy anything, when you get to the register, just say Pugs 20. You'll get a 20% discount. That's our friends at Sacred Oils. Hey, everywhere you go, you're hearing about CBD, you're hearing about all this stuff. You're probably like, that's not for me. Or though maybe now you're at the point like I was recently, where it became, that is for me. Kind of like this stuff. Here's the stuff that I use. These are my two favorites. I've pretty much sampled a whole bunch of stuff, but I like this. This is the Sacred Oil. I take that about an hour before bed. Little dropper under the tongue. Comes in a dropper. Very good. Nice, relaxing, chill mood. Then when I sprained my ankle, this is how I got introduced to these products. When I sprained my ankle, you saw it. I was showing it. It was giant and swelled up and all that stuff, and I was just using, typical measures that I've used my whole life. And then somebody gave me this stuff. This is a CBD soothing cream, 500 milligrams of some kind of soothing cream. I don't know. It felt great. I slathered my ankle in this stuff, and I was up and around in just a couple of days. I mean, and you saw it. If you were watching the show, I showed you the ankle. It was a pretty severely sprained ankle. I bet, I can't say this with absolute authority, but I bet Patrick Mahomes used Sacred Oil CBD when he sprained his ankle and was, ready like a week later. I bet he did. Pugs 20 at the Sacred Oil store. If you want to, you just sample, just try and figure out what's going on with this whole CBD thing. Think if it's for you. You're hearing ads everywhere. Like the big companies, they're all advertising everywhere. It's, it's a thing. So if you're going to try it with our friends. Try it with the friends who are actually helping out the show. Try it with our friends who, sometimes hang out in the chat room. You may have interacted with them. This is how we build a community here. We support each other. And I like their stuff. So, for whatever that's worth. What's the dog doing? The dog is getting into some weird stuff as I wait for the... What are you doing, kiddo? Huh? What are you doing, little girl? She's being weird because it's kind of rainy, so she doesn't want to go outside because, it's rainy. But she also doesn't want to be in here because it's kind of hot. But it's not hot today. It's actually kind of nice today. All right, let's get started. It is the High Noon Show brought to you by Sacred Oils for May the 10th. May the 10th, I will have you know, is the 130th day of the year. There are 235 days remaining until the end of the year, so get those New Year's Eve plans started. There you go. The show is officially underway. Excuse me. Let's see here. Let's move into how we cover the day's news. We like to give you, the show is built upon the trends of the day. Current events, headlines, and all that stuff. But before we move into that, I like to do a segment we call Erstwhile on this day. We go through the history of the day, the history of May 10th. Let's examine some of the things that have gone down on this day. Let's look at maybe some of the trends that happened every year on this day. Maybe it's a springtime phenomenon. I don't know. Maybe it's magic. But those are the kinds of things that we look for. So we go through the history of May 10th. Then we go through some of the birthdays. We celebrate people who were born on this day. And then we mourn some of the passings. And we decide, do we care? Was this person worthy? And after that, after we've done the events of the day, after we've done the birthdays, after we've done the mournings, then we move into the events of the day, the actual things that are trending and all that, okay? So if you're with me, let's get started. On this day, I should say erstwhile on this day, 1773, the British Parliament of Great Britain passes the Tea Act, which is designed to save the British East India Company by reducing taxes on its tea and granting it the right to sell tea directly to North America. This legislation, folks, this is what led to the Boston Tea Party. That's right, a very big event. All right, let me migrate the chat room, guys. All right, if you're in the chat room, say hi. I know it's going to take a couple of seconds with the delay and all that kind of stuff. But if you're in the chat room, say hi now, because I just tried to migrate the chat room. I want to make sure it's working. So we can all talk together, you know. Let's see here. Also, hi, Leslie. Hi, April. On this day, 1874, 16th, and Marie Antoinette become king and queen of France. Oh, how'd that work out for her? What a glorious day. Marie Antoinette and King Louis. Oh, that's right. That's right. They received a proper dictator's death. Do you know Marie Antoinette, what do you know about Marie Antoinette? The one thing that you know about Marie Antoinette is not true. The one thing you know about her is that she famously said, "Let them eat cake," when as empress or queen, whatever she was going by at the time, and I guess she was a queen because Josephine was an empress. Okay, so Marie Antoinette was a queen. All right, so when she was queen, she was confronted with the starvation and abject poverty of the peasant class there in France at the time, and she was living high off the hog. And she famously responded, "Let them eat cake." Just depicting the wild disconnect that the upper class, the royal class, the monarchy had when it came to understanding the plight of the peasant. Let them eat cake. She thought they could just have cake. She thought when they said they were hungry, it was like, oh, so they don't have any meat? Well, then they can just have desserts. Like poor people have desserts. So that was seen, and it echoed throughout the countryside, and it rallied the peasants to really, really hate Louis and Marie. And here's the thing. She's famous for having said that. She did not say that. She never said that. That is not an actual quote. That is a newspaper telling a false quote by a rebel newspaper to do exactly what it did, which was stir up the people in the countryside. She never said, "Let them eat cake," and yet it's the thing that she is most famous for. And she got married on this day in 1774. On Marie Antoinette. On this day in 1775, during the American Revolutionary War, a small colonial militia led by two heroes. Oh my God. When this happened in the Revolutionary War, and when the newspapers got a hold of it, these two dudes were the biggest heroes of the Revolutionary War up to that time. I mean, they were gods. This was such a huge thing. They had such a small force, and they defeated such an entrenched British, force, battalion? I don't know, whatever. It was a shocking, shocking victory for the underdog patriots. One of these guys would go, he would have his reputation be fine. The other guy is Benedict Arnold. That's right. We're talking about the hero of Ticonderoga, the Battle of Ticonderoga. Benedict Arnold was the hero of Ticonderoga. He was the guy, that's where he jacked up his leg, like his horse fell on him while he was charging. But he was a badass military leader who really had good plans and all that kind of stuff. The deal with Benedict Arnold was, apparently he married himself a fancy lady, and he was like a working class, hardcore, military dude who suddenly was good at it. So they started making him an officer, and then he got all fancy pants. Benedict Arnold met this fancy lady, Peggy, and she wanted things. She was of the Philadelphia upper crust, and she wanted things. In the Revolution, there was no money, right? So the Continental Congress wasn't paying any of the army officers or anything. So that's why Benedict Arnold was a greedy son of a bitch, and as it turns out, a bad and disreputable dude. But on this day in 1775, he and Ethan Allen, that's right, he's the other guy, Ethan Allen, the remaining hero of Battle Ticonderoga, Ethan Allen, Ethan Allen, of course, would go on to be a furniture maker. He's got all of his namesake stores throughout America. Actually, I don't know. I don't think that has anything to do with the real Ethan Allen. But he was a furniture maker. So there you go. You have that. On this day in 1849, oh, this is a fun story. This is the fun. Well, it's not fun. I mean, I say fun, more like fucking crazy. This is a crazy story that I actually, I like to say with these stories, we were never taught about this. Well, we were never taught about this, but I'd heard this story before because this is really crazy. On this day, excuse me, on this day in 1849 in New York City, something happened that is historically known as the Astor Place Riot. The Astor Place Riot. A riot breaks out at the Astor Opera House in Manhattan in New York City. 22 people were killed and over 120 people were injured. So this is an opera house, okay? And this is opera houses aren't what they are now. Fancy. Opera houses were designed in two ways. There were private viewing areas, which we now know as boxes and, balcony seats and all that kind of stuff. That was for the upper crust, to look down upon. That's where the whole saying of looking down upon someone comes from, because you're up higher. The poor people, they were all on the floor. And they didn't have any kind of other entertainment back in this day. So stage plays, live stage plays, were huge. It was the only thing everybody had, so everybody came together, the upper crust and the poor people, all in one place. And they were crazy back. This is where, we've seen the depictions of "you suck" and people throwing fruit at the stage and all. That's where this comes from. That was the very real reaction. And that's why the upper crust were up above it all, above, looking down above it. All of those phrases, that's where they come from. So on this day, here's an interesting thing. The English back in this time were the only people who were considered good actors. The English were the only, they did the Shakespeare, and oh my God, if an English acting troupe was coming to your town, you bought tickets months in advance. It was a big deal. So the English were, now around this time, America had started producing its own band of actors, right? And there was a dude, an American actor named Edwin Forrest, who was widely considered in America to be the greatest living actor. Well, there was also an English dude by the name of William Charles Macready, and he was considered to be the greatest Shakespearean actor of all time. Now, on this day at the Astor Place, or at the Astor Opera House, there was a play that was staged, and it was starring the famed British actor William Charles Macready. He was coming to America to do his big thing. Problem is, this play also had Edwin Forrest, and Edwin Forrest was the American actor, and this turned into the wealthy people of Manhattan who were just there to see the famed British actor, what was his name? William Charles Macready. They didn't like all the dirt bags that were there to see the greatest American actor, who was considered lesser. He was more of these rough and tumble types, right? Whereas the English actor was very, very sophisticated. Now, there was also, still in this time, there was a lot of British American, there was a lot of anti-British resentment in America. So the British guy sucked, right? So all the poor people were like, British guy sucks. And then the American guy, they loved the American guy. And the British people were like, behave yourself. The fancy people up in the opera boxes, behave yourself. And so shit started getting thrown back and forth. Then, on stage, while they're trying to do the play, while all this is happening, the two actors themselves get into a physical altercation with two actors. So you got the American actor, Edwin Forrest. He's the champion of the poor people, the dirty Americans. He's the champion of them. And then you've got the English guy, Sir William Charles Macready, who is, he's... The rich people can't believe he's here. Rich people can't believe they're seeing this guy. This guy's a big deal. So this whole evening is being ruined by these two actors and the two groups of people who love them. Well, the rich people, they decided to use some of their connections, and they called in like the National Guard. The poor people, they called in their connections. New York at the time was run by a political party that was known as Tammany Hall. And they were very corrupt. And they were very mob-like oriented. So you had the state guard being brought in by the upper crust who were defending the... This is over a play, over who's got the most lines. And anyway, the National Guard and the Tammany Hall thugs and police, they got into it out front. There was like a massacre. The National Guard just started firing on people. You think Kent State was a big deal? No. On this day in 1849, the Astor Place riots occurred over two actors who, I'm the best. No, I'm the best. Actors were responsible for it. On this day in 1869, the first transcontinental railroad was open for business. They drove the Golden Spike on this day. What a day in American history. On this day in 1899, Finnish farm worker, 1899. All right, check this out. 1899. Finnish farm worker, Carl Emil Malmolin, killed 7 people with an axe at the Simulacroft farm in the village of Klaklak. I don't know, whatever, I can't pronounce it. My point is this, 1899, some dude over in Finland lost his nut and went to a farm and slaughtered everybody with an axe. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Pugs, a long time ago, I imagine that shit happened all the time. The Mongol hordes would roll through. And yeah, but 1899 is kind of more modern than that. There were governments and there was laws and, there were judges and people got arrested. There was stuff like that going on in 1899. You couldn't just slaughter 8 people, but it happened. I mean, we've got it happening more now. People losing their nut and just killing a bunch of innocent people. This dude, this big dumb oaf, here's his story. He was mad because he worked on the farm and he fell in love with the daughter of the lead farmer. And the daughter, I guess, didn't like him back. So he showed up and killed everybody. Just slaughtered everybody. Everyone likes to say that America is like the place that produces really solid spree killers and mass shooters and that kind of thing. And I guess we are, well, not I guess we are. We are. We're number one. That's where this happens. We do that, for lack of a better word, better than anybody else. But I'll tell you, man, don't be sleeping on them Finns. Them Finns people, those people over there. But when I say Finns, I mean everybody over there. I mean the Swedes. I mean those people. Andre Breivik, right? Those people know they can do it too. They know how to do it too. On this day, in 1899, that happened. Finnish farm worker Carl Emil Malmkin killed 7 people on a farm with an axe because the daughter wouldn't marry him. On this day in 1908, the very first Mother's Day is observed. It's the first time that it's observed here in the United States. Happy Mother's Day for the first time on this day in 1908. Let's hear it for the moms. That's good. That's good for the moms. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's not good. No, that's right. You can stand. This is the point where people are now standing. They're like, yeah. And now the people who are reluctant to stand are like, all right, I guess I got to stand or I'm the asshole. For the moms. On this day in 1924, J. Edgar Hoover is appointed first director of the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, and he stays there forever until he dies in a dress. I don't know, he died in a dress. You do realize, the FBI for a period of time in the 30s and in the 40s and in the 50s and in the 60s was glamorized. It was glorified. It was romanticized. And that was a very deliberate act, a partnership that was formed between Hollywood and J. Edgar Hoover. He wanted the American people to have this impression, a branding, if you will, of the FBI as being the G-men, as being always straight shooters, always honest. And that worked for a very long time. And again, it was cahoots. It was J. Edgar Hoover and Hollywood creating this fabricated image of the G-man, of the FBI. What was really happening, and began on this day in 1924, what was really happening was the powers that be of the time gave one small, insecure, sexually confused chip on his shoulder little man the power to basically arrest anyone, anytime, anywhere, for any reason, ever. That's what J. Edgar Hoover's FBI was. And the whole Hollywood branding of the G-Man was to sort of counterbalance what was really going on, which is that it was an incredibly corrupt organization under J. Edgar Hoover. People today talking about the FBI used to be the once great FBI. Shut up, not the once great FBI. The FBI was always a bag of D's just working for this freaky little man who, you want to talk about give him an inch, he takes a mile. They gave J. Edgar Hoover an inch, and over the course of the next 4 decades, he became the most powerful man in America. Most powerful man in America. I know you probably think, well, the president. No, because he had shit on everybody that wanted to be president. Hoover and his files are legendary. Everybody, anybody in the country with a little bit of influence, J. Edgar Hoover would find out the absolute worst thing about him, and then he would sit on their file. And he ruled with an iron fist. It was really a crazy time. Historically, looking back at the way federal law enforcement was in its first 50, 60 years under Hoover, is just amazing. It's just amazing. And you have to really think about all of the things the FBI was involved in. All of the, investigations where people were tried as spies. A lot of controversial ones. All kinds of things like that. Anyway, it was on this day. Hoover's a bad guy. Hoover's a really bad guy. And when people talk about the FBI today and they're like, we need to disband the FBI. Well, let's not go. The FBI over the past 40 years, 45, 50 years, maybe 50 years now, 50 years, since the passing of J. Edgar Hoover and it moving into more of a bureaucratic operation, which is what the FBI became. It was run by an autocrat. The FBI was run by J. Edgar Hoover. Now it's more in control. You may not like what the FBI or the Department of Justice is today, but I promise you, it is light years better than what it was in, say, 1960. It was great, and everything was justified by the Cold War. Everything the FBI did could be justified by, well, we thought they were communists. And America would go, well, that's fine. Well, did you hear that, Marge? They thought they were communists. That's why we never saw that family again. I mean, on this day in 1940 in World War II, Winston Churchill is appointed Prime Minister of the United Kingdom following the resignation of Neville Chamberlain. Sir Winston Churchill, to you, buddy. Churchill was awesome. I love Churchill. Flawed man. But sometimes history gets it right. Sometimes history sometimes there is a man of his era. And he's a man for his time, and he steps up, and he does what needs to be done for his people. See, now I'm looking at this. I'm looking at Churchill through an objective lens. He wasn't my leader. I wasn't the British people. But I can stand here on these shores, and I can look, and I can go, man, that dude took the bull by the horns. He didn't lie to his people. He told everybody, this is gonna be bad. He goes, his speeches. Have you ever heard Winston Churchill's World War II speeches? If you have any fantasy of what your perfect leader would sound like during a time of crisis, it's freaking Winston Churchill making those goddamn radio speeches on BBC Radio while the bombs are falling. London is being decimated, and you hear Churchill. Oh, my God. This was the day. This was the day that the Brits got in the fight, because Chamberlain was a bad guy. Chamberlain was a coward. He was the prime minister before Churchill. Chamberlain wanted to be friends with Hitler. Chamberlain was behind the scenes trying to work out deals, going, hey, Hitler, when you take Poland, maybe you can give us this slide. He was a piece of shit. And he was gone. And then Churchill stepped up and he's like, all right, Hitler's a dick. Who's with me? And all of England was like, let's go. Yeah, it was good. It was good. That was on this day, Winston Churchill ascends to prime minister. But, you got to remember, too, Churchill's been around for a long time. He was, like, bouncing around. Churchill's kind of like a Mitt Romney. He was kind of like a Mitt Romney. When he replaced Neville Chamberlain, Churchill had already been written off. He had already been like, yeah, we've done it with him, right? He was a big player. He was, like, in charge of the Admiralty during World War I. I mean, he was a big dude. Churchill was a big dude. But, yeah, I would compare it to, like, if we here in America got into, like, really bad shit, and it was just like okay, and somehow Mitt Romney, like, ascends, right? Or for the liberal, like, how Al Gore suddenly ascends. Somebody who we thought we were done with, and they suddenly ascend, and look at what they do. That's what Churchill was. People were like, oh, God, Churchill again. What's this guy going to be about? And he was a man for the time. He was perfect. Flawed, incredibly flawed. Didn't agree with his entire worldview. He was a colonizer, man. But, in that moment, they needed somebody to be that guy, and he was that guy. Let's see. What else do we have? In 1975, in 1975, on this day, Sony introduces the Betamax video cassette recorder. The Betamax, superior Betamax. Everybody should have a Betamax in their house. This was the best way to do it. And, the best product didn't win. Two products were introduced at the same time, the Beta and the VHS tape. All of you had the VHS tape. For some reason, was it Philips? Was that what it was? I think this was at a time when we were kind of like, didn't we not like the Japanese at some point, right? And I think that maybe plays a role in why the American population adopted the VHS from Philips, or was it like TDK? What was it? I think it was Philips. Anyway. And we didn't go with the superior Japanese product, which was Betamax, because Betamax was superior. Betamax was smaller, took up less space, had better sound quality, had better resolution. Betamax was a better product. I can tell you that for 20 years after the fall of Betamax as a viable competitor to VHS, radio stations across America were keeping the Betamax company in business, because radio stations were buying all the Betamax tapes and recording all of their broadcasts on Betamax. So, like, if you were to go look at, here in Dallas, like the KRLD archives, if you were to go walk into the KRLD archives, when you got back to the section in the 90s, before digital, you would just see rows and rows of Betamaxes. I don't know why Betamax didn't work. Betamax was better. Everybody says it's better. Betamax could have been produced cheaper. Best product. Did not win. But it was on this day that Sony hit the market with their superior home video product. Frank Smith actually says that the popularity of VHS was due in part to porn. He's 100% right. He is absolutely right. That is a fact that history has acknowledged as being one of the reasons why VHS took off over Betamax. And it was because in the early days, the porn producers made a deal with VHS, and they said, we'll only produce our films on VHS. So the only way you could watch porn is if you had a VHS VCR. And so people would, they'd go out and buy. Okay, so this one's better. The Betamax is better quality. It's smaller. It's better sound and all that stuff. And this one, the VHS, same price, not as good. But this one I can play porn on. Okay, I'm going with the one I can play porn on. And that's what happened. That's what it was. Good catch, Frank. He's absolutely right. On this day in 1994, Nelson Mandela is inaugurated as South Africa's first black president. Have they had others? I don't know. I don't keep track of who's in charge of South Africa. I remember in the 90s, it was like a bad guy. It was like a dude with a German name, Helmut. I don't know. No, it wasn't Helmut Kohl. Helmut Kohl was West Germany. No, it was like Dieter Van Dyk. I don't know, something like that. And then it was Mandela, and then I don't know. But it was on this day that Mandela became president of South Africa. And I couldn't tell you who the president of South Africa is right now. There's a good chance those countries always have really attractive female prime ministers. There's a good chance that there's someone really attractive because South African women are gorgeous. Gorgeous. All right, let's go. What's her name? What's her name? The one I always confuse with Cameron Diaz. Who's the South African babe? God, she's beautiful. Someone in the chat room would tell me. She freaks people out because she describes herself as African American. Because she is. Because she is. She's South African. She's from Africa. She's American. Now, what's her name? You people in the chat room know her name. There you go. Charlize Theron. That's who it is. Thank you, April. April is the default producer on this show. We don't have a producer, but if we did, it would be April. So thank you, April, for that one. Too late, Barney. April beat you. Barney now, like 10 minutes later. Charlize. Yeah, I know Barney. That's it. Okay, so that's it. Let's do some births now. Let's talk about some people who were born on this day. There's a lot of fun ones, so let's get into that. I can't play music. You say it's your birthday, so you're just going to have to put up with that. Let's see. Born on this day in 1838. Yeah, we're going way back. Born on this day in 1838. John Wilkes Booth. He was an actor. We were talking about how, 38. So 1840. So it was 1840 when that Astor Place riot broke out between the earliest known American superstar actor and the famed British actor. So John Wilkes Booth would go on to be like the next generation of American actors. So there you go. He was also famous for something else. Yeah, I think I'm burying the lead. John Wilkes Booth. He killed Lincoln. That's who he killed. He killed Lincoln. That's a weird. Look. We've talked about that. That's a weird assassination. That is a crazy. If you don't know the real story about the assassination of, if you just think it was, he was at a movie and somebody. No, there was this whole conspiracy. It was crazy what was going on that night in Washington. On this day in 1899, born unto this plane of existence, ladies and gentlemen, Fred Astaire. He's a dancer. He was famous. He was ugly. I never got Fred Astaire. That was an ugly man. That was a skinny, spindly, weird-looking man. And yet he was a huge star. Fred Astaire, born on this day in 1899. He died in 1987. Born on this day in 1922, Nancy Walker. You guys know who Nancy Walker is? Yeah, you do. You know, if you're like me, if you come from the 80s, you know who Nancy Walker is. Nancy Walker was Roz, the quicker picker-upper. Remember, she was the waitress that, some idiot would always spill their coffee, and she's like, I got it, you dumb fuck! And she'd just, she was kind of gruff. She's kind of like she was pissed that you spilled coffee, but she had it under control because she's Roz. And she was using the quicker picker-upper. And then you'd be embarrassed, and then she'd turn out to be nice. That was Roz! That was her whole act. That was Roz, the bounty quicker picker-upper lady. She was pissed that you're a slob, and she gave you that look in the beginning, but then she was cool because she turned out to be a nice lady. She was also Rhoda's mom. She was Rhoda Morgenstern's mom on Rhoda, so she did that as well. And that was crazy for me as a kid because she was very well known as Roz, the quicker picker-upper lady. And then suddenly she's on one of my favorite shows as the mom. And because I was a kid and I didn't really understand how these things weren't all one connected universe, I just thought Rhoda's mom was the bounty towel lady. Kids are dumb. Kids are dumb. I also, for a very long time, far longer than I think would have been considered normal, I thought that when you heard music playing on the radio, I thought the band was actually in the radio studio. That's right, I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. And we talked about Romper Room, how I didn't really think that she could see me. I see Johnny, I see Mickey, I see Lisa. I wasn't sure though. I thought at 5 or 6 years old, I thought maybe she can see me. And so I'd wave just because why not? I'm alone. Nobody's paying attention to me. I'm waving at the TV like an idiot. Yep, that's me. Nancy Walker. Born on this day, born on this day in 1944. How about this guy? How about Jim Abrams? Jim Abrams, ladies and gentlemen. You know who Jim Abrams is? You're like, why do I know that name? Well, you know him with his partners. His partners are Zucker, Abrams, Zucker. That's right. These are the people who made Airplane. All those, like, absurdly stupid movies that are so funny. The Zucker brothers and Jim Abrams. They made a lot of movies. Happy birthday to Jim Abrams. Is he still alive? He sure is. Born on this day in 1944. Born on this day in 1946, Donovan. Scottish singer and songwriter, Donovan. I'm just mad about saffron. She's just mad. Mellow Yellow. They call me Mellow Yellow. That dude, that's Donovan. Sunshine Superman. It's another one by Donovan. Donovan's not as successful as his reputation. Like, Donovan, like, people like, Donovan was a genius. You know, Dylan thought Donovan was the great. You know, he gets that kind of clout. But he doesn't really, it's not like he's Elton John or anything, you know. I'll tell you what I appreciate the most about Donovan. Donovan is the father of one of my favorite Gen X actresses. That's right. She was, oh my God. She is still, oh my God. But she was, oh my God. Of course, I'm talking about the lovely 80s and early 90s actress, daughter of Donovan, Ione Skye. Ione Skye. If you didn't see Say Anything as a 17-year-old boy and fall instantly in love with Ione Skye, in the same way that John Cusack's character of Lloyd Dobler, is it Lloyd Dobler? Lloyd Dobler fell in love with her, then you are dead to me. I don't want to know you. She was so hot. She was so beautiful. She was gorgeous. She was smart. She was decent. She was clean. She was everything. Ione Skye there was probably a couple of years in my life when she was number one. She was number one. Everybody else had to at least match up to what my impression of Ione Skye was. So good job, Donovan. Nice looking daughter you got there. Then a couple of years later, they gave us Liv Tyler. Remember when they rolled Liv Tyler out? And I'm like, well, she's just a poor man's Ione Skye. And then Ione Skye never worked again. We never saw her again. She probably just married some duke or something because she's British American. I didn't know she was British. Well, I knew her dad was Scottish, but I thought she was like American born and raised. She's not. She's actually British. But I don't know if she has an accent. I don't think I've ever heard her speak with an accent. Is Better Off Dead Lloyd? Is that or is that the Sure Thing? Or is that Lloyd? I don't know. I thought his name was Lloyd in Say Anything. Let's just have it be that every character John Cusack has ever played is named Lloyd, and we can avoid these kinds of awkward moments in the future. Born on this day in 1955, Chris Berman, American sportscaster. I like Chris Berman. Chris Berman to me is like the most important person ever in the history of ESPN. Chris Berman is the guy that when ESPN was really starting to take off, you can point at Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann in the original incarnation of The Big Show, which was SportsCenter, as it was colloquially known. But Chris Berman was the guy, like at ESPN. In 1990, ESPN, the guy was Chris Berman. Happy birthday to you, Chris Berman. What does he still do? I see sometimes he trends. Because why are people like, he needs to retire? Chris Berman was great. Chris Berman can stay as long as he wants. Chris Berman was funny. Chris Berman had nicknames for everybody. Nicknames. The art of nicknaming is not as easy as one might think. And Chris Berman was very good at it. Born on this day in 1955, Mark David Chapman, American murderer. Boy, there you go. How'd you like to have that in your bio? American murderer. No, I don't think so. I'm going to pass on that one. Born on this day, he murdered John Lennon, of course. He's that guy, so we'll move on. Born on this day in 1957, Sid Vicious. English singer and bass player. Bass player. Not really. I mean, he plugged it in and he just went bang, bang, bang. I think I'm as much as a bass player as maybe Sid Vicious was. Sid Vicious, of course, killed his girlfriend Nancy Spungen in the Chelsea Hotel in New York. Murder. He then died. How did he die? OD. He died in a very Sid Vicious way. Probably OD'd in the gutter. What a garbage. Sid and Nancy, great movie. Great movie. Gary Oldman, great movie. Gary Oldman as Sid Vicious, fantastic. Born on this day in 1958, Rick Santorum, American lawyer and politician, United States Senator from Pennsylvania. Rick Santorum, where'd he go for the last, 6 years? Rick Santorum was, one of the top crazies on the right. Him and Michelle Bachmann. And then the Trump wave came in. Did they not back Trump right away? And they were sort of sacrificed because of it. Because they're, I think they both believe all the same things. I don't know. Because a lot of people didn't back Trump right away. A lot of people, remember he gave out Lindsey Graham's home phone number because Lindsey Graham was talking crap on him. Now Lindsey Graham is the world's greatest supplicant. That's weird. Ted Cruz, remember the whole Ted Cruz thing? Your wife is ugly. He said his wife was ugly. And now Ted Cruz is he kind of has a point. What? So is that what happened with Rick Santorum? I don't know. The most famous thing about Rick Santorum is if you Google his name, he's one of the earliest victims of search engine optimization terrorism, where you would put his name in and the first 100 results would all be about some weird gay sex move or something. I don't know, whatever it was. I don't know. You know what? Right now, if you want, go ahead, Google Rick Santorum and see if it comes up. I don't know. Born on this day in 1960, Bono, Irish singer, songwriter, musician, and activist. Bono, born on this day. Born on this, U2, of course, duh. Born on this day in 1978, Kenan Thompson. Yay! I love Kenan Thompson was a slow convince for me. First of all, Kenan Thompson's been on Saturday Night Live for what feels like decades. Feels like he's been there for 20 years. And I would say that for the first 10 years of Kenan Thompson on Saturday Night Live, I found him to be so spare, so incredibly spare. See, now, I didn't grow up with Kenan and Kel, right? So I didn't know where he came from. So I understand how a younger generation may be no, he's good, you just watch. I was not impressed with him for a while. But now, in the last 10 years, he has become my absolute favorite person currently on the cast. Year in and year out. That guy is just so consistently funny. And now because he's been there so long, I feel like I know him. I know his idiosyncrasies. I know the nuances of the way his facial expressions, you know what I mean? It's just he's ubiquitous now for me in my Saturday Night Love. So happy birthday, Kenan Thompson. You won me over, kid. I think you're just a cat's pajamas. All right, let's get into some deaths. Some people who died on this day. These are the people who died. These are the people who died. Do we care? That's we part of the show. These are the people who died on this day. Do we care? So let's go through it. Paul Revere. Paul Revere died on this day in 1818. The British are coming, the British are coming. The British are coming, the British are coming. That's what he did. And here's the other thing. He died on this day in 1818. He was born in 1735. That's 65, 75, 83 years. He lived to be 83 years old. That's amazing for that time, right? So I'm thinking he must have, so only wealthy people live that long. So he must have really been able to market himself after the British are coming, the British are coming. After that whole thing, in the 30 years, was he doing carriage dealership openings? Come on down to the carriage dealership where we're going to open it, where you can meet Paul Revere. Was it like that kind of thing? I don't know, because he died. He was just like a working class patriot. And then, somebody writes that poem, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, and he's still around. He's, that's me. That had to have been worth some form of currency back then. And he lived to be a man of 83 years old, so I'm thinking Paul Revere probably was able to cash in. We care, yes, Paul Revere, we care. You're an American patriot, even though there are some questions about you being the only one to do that ride. We know that you weren't. We know that there are a number of other people. We know that there are a number of teenage girls who also made the Midnight Ride. But, somehow you cashed in, and because of that, we care. So he died on this day in 1818. Dead on this day in 1977, a film legend, American actress, Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford! Now! Boy, oh boy, ain't this a story to tell. So Joan Crawford is like this beloved, highly respected icon of Hollywood. Oh, Miss Joan Crawford. She's like, woo, you want to talk about important. Joan Crawford. And then she dies, and a year later, her daughter writes a book about what an abusive mother she was. So, you see Mommy Dearest? Oh, my God, Mommy Dearest. And she was, no wire hangers. Mommy Dearest is a good movie if you've never seen it. I don't know how true it is. Christina Crawford, who is the daughter who wrote the story, who is depicted in the film as the abused child. There's obviously sympathy there if you see the movie, but some of her motivations over the years have been called into question. I don't really know what to believe. Do I believe that Joan Crawford was a lot to grow up with? Absolutely. Yes, no question whatsoever. Anybody who grows up the child of a famous Hollywood actress is going to have a lot to deal with, because Hollywood actresses are insane on their own. Imagine that, and they're your mom, which means they're in charge of everything. So even the most insane ideas you got to do because this is what mom is into. Yeah, no, that's not good. So anyway, do we care? I think we do. I think we care. I think Joan Crawford, I think she's important in the history of film. Dead on this day in 1990, ladies and gentlemen, most prolific mass murderers and serial killers, John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy was put down on this day. I was there. I was a witness. I was covering it as one of my earliest jobs in radio. There I was, a young radio neophyte. I'm one of my some of my earliest radio jobs, stories that I had to cover when I was out there in the field doing real journalism, see? The execution of John Wayne Gacy and the Jeffrey Dahmer case. Now, with the Jeffrey Dahmer case, I was there when that was going on. I was there at the apartment when the FBI was bringing the heads out of the refrigerator. Woo! I mean, I didn't see it, but I saw the canisters that they kept them in. And I looked in his apartment, got to see that, got to see his Miller Lite sign. He liked Miller Lite. Look, I know Bud Light took some hit for the tranny thing. And if we're being fair, Miller Lite never took a hit for it being the preferred beer of Jeffrey Dahmer. So, John Wayne Gacy, do we care? I was there, they dimmed the lights. He's dead. And then they're like, wait, he's not. There was some controversy over, did they have to give him like 2 injections? Whatever, I don't know. I never got a straight answer. That's how terrible I was at being a news reporter. I didn't even care. It was a little rainy. It was kind of cold. I was standing out there in a field with protesters interviewing them. I wanted to go home. John Wayne Gacy, do we care? No, we don't care. Fucking weirdo. Buried kids in his walls. You can rot in hell, you fucking freak show. On this day, dead of life. On this day in 2012, Carroll Shelby, ladies and gentlemen. Carroll Shelby, American race car driver and designer. Carroll Shelby is like, I'm not even a gear queer, but I've got, respect for the greatness of Carroll Shelby, the Shelby Cobra, Mustangs, all of the stuff that Shelby worked on. Shelby was cool. He made cool cars. Famously, it's not Wahlberg, it's the other one. Matt Damon, was it Matt Damon who played him, right? Didn't Matt Damon play him in Ford versus Ferrari? Remember where they were trying to make the Ford supercar that could compete with the Ferrari, and it was like Matt Damon as Carroll Shelby, who had to do it. That was a good movie. I gotta watch that again. Ford versus Ferrari. I've only seen that once. I probably 5 years ago it came out. I could see that again. That was a good movie. I don't remember it. Anyway, Carroll Shelby died on this day. Do we care? Yes, of course we care. Carroll Shelby was cool. Look, if you die and Matt Damon plays you, we're going to care, because that means that you were probably a good dude, because Matt Damon doesn't play assholes. It's not his brand. All right, that's going to do it for the deaths. That's going to help. That's going to be it. All right, so let's move into all of the things that are trending today. Let's see here. How do we do this? Yes, there we go. This is where we move into the trending topics, stuff that's happening, all the headlines, the current events, the trends, whatever people are buzzing about. I try and bring you up to speed on all of that good stuff. But before we do have to thank our friends at Sacred Oils who stepped up this month. This show does run on your tips and your donations, and that does not stop. Sacred Oils just reached out and they said, look, man, we love this show. We love what you're doing. How do we make you meet your goal for this month? And I did. And they did. They're our partners now for this month. So thank you very much to the good folks at Sacred Oils. I just happen to know them because I've been using them. I was telling you about this stuff. These are two of the things that I use. The CBD revolution is happening, right? You hear it everywhere. Every strip mall you pass by has a CBD store or whatever. There's a lot of very interesting things happening in that world. And all I'm telling you is, here, let me show you. These are some of the products that I use, okay? Fully legal, completely legal products. This is the CBD Sacred Oils that I take for sleep, for relaxation, okay? So I take this about an hour before I go to sleep, and then when I actually get in bed to go to sleep, then I take my 2 melatonin gummies, and the combination of the two. This, I take this an hour ahead of time because I know that when I start to feel the effects of this, that's when I should take the gummies. And at that point, I am in just such a relaxed state. I'm not Michael Jackson. I mean, you know what I mean? If something were to occur, I'm fine. But for people who suffer from like an active mind, a mind that races and all that kind of stuff that I do, where you find yourself at the end of a day, you're exhausted, but you're staring at the ceiling and you're thinking about 100 things, I need to find ways to kind of taper that down. So CBD, which is something that had never been an option before, pharmaceuticals were. I took them all. I took the Ambiens. I used to take Tylenol PMs, all of that stuff. CBDs were never an option, and now they are because of these very interesting laws that have made things that were always illegal now suddenly legal. Now, this isn't going to get you high. That's not what this is for. This has different effects. This has more soothing and relaxing effects. Same with this. I use this on my ankle. This is the Sacred Oil CBD Soothing Cream. When I sprained my ankle really bad a couple of weeks ago, that's when I got into this stuff. And if you like your Bengay and all that kind of stuff, that's fine. You can continue using it. But I'll tell you, if you just slather up in this stuff and just let it sink in, and you'll notice, you'll start to feel it. Again, it takes, about 20 minutes or so. I think this stuff's about 20 minutes, but it takes a little bit of time. All of these things are available. And let me show you something else. They got vapes. And they've got all the legal vapes. I don't know how these vapes are legal, but they've got, if you want vapes, they got vapes. I do know how they're legal. They're Delta 8. Delta 8 is legal. Delta 8 is a THC cannabinoid that is derived from hemp, and hemp has been deemed legal at the federal level and also at the state level here in Texas, and hemp derivatives have also been deemed legal. So that's why we're starting to see this blurring of the lines between what's legal. You mean I can walk into a smoke shop and I can get high the same way that I would if I was to go? It is legal. Well, I don't know if you can get high. That's, now we're talking about vernacular. But CBD is a very big thing, and it's helping a whole lot of people for a whole bunch of different things. And if you're thinking about getting into CBDs, please check out our friends at Sacred Oils because they helped us this month. And that's what we need to do in this group. We need to form a community. Call them Sacred Oils, 469-951-3910. That's 469-951-3910. Or stop into their store. It's located right there on Midway, 13740. 13740 Midway Road. I believe it's a suite 522. 522, I think it is. Oh, also, when you do any of that stuff, Pugs 20. Just tell the person when you're cashing out Pugs 20, get your 20% discount. That's Sacred Oils, 13740 Midway Road, Suite 522, 469-951-3910. 469-951-3910. I don't need to say that because it's scrolling. I'm reading it as I'm saying it. You're seeing it too. All right, let's get into all of the stuff that is happening today. Let's get you up to speed. First and foremost, you got this George Santos stuff. That's right. The other shoe finally dropped on old George Santos. George Santos is the congressman from New York who got elected basically by making everything up. He just made everything up. Look, I don't have time to relitigate all of the accusations that George Santos has faced since entering Congress just a couple of months ago. But the dude is a clown show. And thankfully, it appears that everybody on both sides is going, dude is a clown show. He lied about everything. He got up, he looked at the people who were voting in this district, and he said, what do they want to hear? Somebody said they want to hear you're part Jewish because there's a lot of Jewish people here. And he said, okay, I'll tell them I'm Jewish. What else they want to hear? Well, it'd be good if you had some tie to 9/11. I don't have any ties to 9/11. I don't know, but it'd be good if you did. Hey, I just remembered my mother died in 9/11. These are all, he made up these crazy things about himself to endear himself to the voting public. Now, I have stood pretty firmly on the idea that, too bad. He's yours. You elected him. You got to sit with this guy. But now it turns out that there's some money issues where he's doing some money stuff. So we got to get him now. So now we got to get him. Now we got to go after him. And that's kind of what's happened. The Justice Department has, he's in custody right now, which is very weird because, you assume a guy like that, a congressman, he wouldn't have to go through the whole rigmarole and all that stuff. But he's been charged with 13 criminal counts. He is currently spending the day there at the Department of Justice, being processed and all that good stuff. Congressman George Santos surrendered Wednesday morning to face federal charges of fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and false statements. Santos surrendered at the Alphonse D'Amato Courthouse in central Islip, New York on Wednesday morning. He is charged with 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 guy. See, these are the money, the lying stuff. I lied on my resume and I got elected because dumb people believed my stupid lies. That's not, look, that's on you. The dumb people who got duped. I don't know how do you adjudicate that? But money shit, money laundering, if this dumbass was leaving paper trails of, all of his money that was supposed to go to this, but it was going to that. Now that's different. Now we got something we can sink our teeth into and we can really get rid of this clown once and for all. He's charged with 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making material false statements to the House of Representatives. The indictment was returned on Tuesday under seal by a federal judge in central Islip, New York. What else? The indictment says Santos introduced supporters. The indictment says that Santos induced supporters to donate to a company under the false pretense that the money would be used to support his campaign. Instead, it says he used it for personal expenses, including luxury designer clothes and to pay off his credit cards. Yep, that's how it's done. That's how it's done. It's just that most of these career politicians are better at it. They know exactly what they can and they can't do. Sounds like old George got a little sloppy. Again, this is why I tell you, these people, they announce that they're running for president, and you say, why is this person running for president? There is no way he can win or she can win or whomever. Why is this? Here's why they do it. Because you can legally campaign, you can go out and raise money. You can go out and raise money. If you have some influence over some group of idiots, like let's say you've got like 10,000 people from coast to coast, that's nothing. That'll never get you elected. But let's say you have 10,000 crazy people. If you can get those 10,000 crazy people to start giving you money, you just keep that money. You take all the money that you can out of the people who believe in you, and then you say, well, folks, we can't win this, so I'm going to close up shop and suspend the campaign. They don't return the money in the war chest. That war chest then gets turned into the property of what eventually becomes a political action committee that is almost always run by the candidate who stepped away. And then as the guy in charge of the political action committee, then you can pay yourself whatever you want. You can coincidentally pay yourself exactly what's in that war chest. And that's how the game is played. And Santos apparently was really sloppy in that part of the game. And he got caught. U.S. Attorney Breon Peace said the indictment seeks to hold Santos accountable for various alleged fraudulent schemes and brazen misrepresentations. Taken together, the allegations in the indictment charge Santos with relying on repeatedly dishonest deception in order to ascend to the halls of Congress and enrich himself. See, I don't think that's legal. Or illegal. Not only do I think that particular thing is not illegal, I think it's the norm. I just assume. So here's the charge again. Santos will be arraigned this afternoon. He is being, here, let me put it away. Taken all together, this is a quote now by the prosecutor. Taken all together, the allegations in the indictment charge Santos with relying on repeated dishonesty, deception, to ascend to the halls of repeated dishonesty and deception. They're saying he relied on dishonesty and deception in order to get elected. And I say that's what everybody does. But if you got a money trail, you're in better company. Yeah, so they got Santos. That's why Santos is the big thing. Come on, man. This is where you really find out who's a broken partisan weirdo. Everybody can look at this guy and go, uh-huh. I mean, hey, you know what? I can go back like 25 years. Jesse Jackson Jr. Jesse Jackson Jr. was my congressman from the south side of Chicago. And he was like, we weren't as, I guess, partisan. I mean, we were partisan back then. But even all of us, like in the district, were like, yeah, he's got to go. He is an embarrassment. We didn't fall, let's defend him. No, we knew that Jesse Jackson Jr. and before him, a guy by the name of Mel Reynolds, we knew these guys were like, corrupt, bad people. And they got thrown out and there was no pushback. So let's not have any pushback defending Santos, right? We know this guy's a clown show. Let's just move on. He was a fun distraction, but let's just move on. And it doesn't matter. If they have to hold a special election and a Democrat wins the seat, it's still not enough to overturn Congress. You're fine. It's, because I promise you the Republican Party in that particular area is not very popular right now. Those people are very upset that the Republican Party endorsed Santos, and then they were all forced to vote for Santos. Nice one, Romney girl. Who's the Romney girl that's in charge of the Republican Party? She's the one that chose Santos. She's the one that decided to put the money behind him in that district. Romney, what's her name? Something Romney? I don't know. Whatever. She's a clown show. I can't believe that she is still in charge of the Republican Party. She has lost like every election that she has been in charge of. Every single one. The red wave, that was a disaster. She was in charge of that. The Biden victory, that was a disaster for the Republicans. She was in charge of that. They need some new leadership. She's a clown show. She will do Santos, we think he's good. Did you look into his background? What background? She's a clown show. She's an embarrassment to the Republican Party. They need a serious person in charge there. Not her. Not some legacy who used to use she's like Mitt Romney's niece, and she used the Romney name, in order to get her wherever she needed to go. And then as soon as she tied herself to the Trump people and Romney broke bad with Trump, she stopped using Romney. That ought to tell you a lot about this woman and who she is. She is just going wherever the best career opportunity is. And, it got her to the chair of the Republican Party. She's also the one who greenlit Santos as a candidate. And Dr. Oz, and I guess, it was more Trump that was behind Dr. Oz. But she was definitely behind Santos. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, well, speaking of, now we got Trump. We got to talk about Trump. Trump was, what did he do? He lost a civil case. New York, Manhattan civil case, E. Jean Carroll, who was a New York City columnist, and as it turns out, back in the 90s, a babe. She was hot. You seen all these pictures of E. Jean Carroll going around? Pictures of her and Trump, like, talking and stuff? She was hot. She was so hot that Trump was presented a picture of him speaking with her. Trump had said that this is absurd. She's not even my type, and we've never even met. That was his contention. So they put a picture in front of him of him speaking with E. Jean Carroll back back then. So he did know her. I mean, he's at a party with her. He's talking to her at a party. And they hand him the picture, and he goes, yeah, okay, that's me. That's Marla. Marla Maples, who was his second wife. That's me. That's Marla. Well, what about it? And one of the other lawyers said, Mr. Trump, did you say Marla's in that picture? He's like, yeah, that's Marla right there. He was pointing to E. Jean Carroll, a woman who he said he, one, wasn't attracted to, and two, that he had never met. So we've got a picture there of him meeting her, so we know that they did meet. So, but that's fine. He meets a lot of people. He doesn't have to remember everybody. Everybody wanted to meet him. You know, he was Trump. He was famous. It's back in the 90s. He was famous then. It wasn't polarizing then either. I mean, people thought he was a buffoon, but he wasn't polarizing. So, okay, so that's fine. So there's a picture of him, and he's meeting her. That's good. That's fine. But he said he wasn't into her. And then he confuses her for a woman that he would marry, Marla Maples. And look, in his defense, she looks just like Marla Maples. I mean, when I looked at the picture of E. Jean Carroll in that moment, me hanging out with Trump at a party, and Trump going, that's me and Marla. I'm like, yeah, that is him and Marla. And then I go, oh, wait, that's not Marla. So holy shit. So he was attracted to her. He was attracted to that type. He married that type. He married a woman, so a little dishonesty. Anyway, it was a civil case. He was being charged civilly, which this is absurd that you can charge someone civilly with rape. What? If we got time to charge someone with rape civilly, let's do that criminally. And you know what? If there's not enough to charge someone with rape criminally, so we're not going to bring these criminal felony charges of rape because we don't have the evidence, you shouldn't be able to sue civilly for it. I don't think that's fair. And you know what? I think the court, I think the jury, I think in this particular case with Trump, they felt the same way. So they disavowed that charge, the charge of rape, the civil charge of rape, which is just such fucking lawyer bullshit. There is no civility in rape, okay? It is either a criminal thing and it's adjudicated properly, and then maybe if there's money from the rapist, then you can go civilly after him because it's already been adjudicated as a felony crime. A civil rape? Get the fuck, so they threw that out. They did, however, they found him guilty on the charges of sexual battery, sexual abuse. Well, let me get this right. I want to word it right, because, again, we're talking about a very polarizing dude. So I want to make sure that, I'm just at least getting it right. Trump found liable for sexual abuse and defamation in E. Jean Carroll case. He's been ordered to pay $5 million in damages. Writer E. Jean Carroll was awarded $5 million on Tuesday by a Manhattan jury that found former President Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming her while clearing him of her rape claim. Carroll, 79, held her head down as the verdict was read in Manhattan federal court and nodded when she heard the jury finding in favor of her defamation claim. Trump, 76, branding her a liar when she came forward with her allegations that he raped her in the Bergdorf Goodman fitting room in 1996. All right, so that's her claim. Her claim is that she knew him, they were in the same social circles. By the way, there's been numerous pictures that have proven that they did circulate in the same social circles, so they were aware of each other. And Donald Trump was also very aware of her husband, who was a guy named Johnny Johnson or something like that. He was a New York City newsman. He was an anchor. He was a famous, well-respected New York City news anchor. And Trump, this is back in the era of only 3 channels. So Trump watched local news, and so Trump was always been a star effer. So Trump really dug her husband. He thought he was a cool guy. So, yeah, it would make sense that Trump knew E. Jean Carroll as the hot wife of this cool-ass news anchor that he likes. And that's why there's all these pictures of Trump and the news anchor and E. Jean Carroll and all this stuff. So, anyway, they were in the same circles. And apparently they bumped into each other at Bergdorf Goodman, which is a very fancy rich people store there in Manhattan. And they were in the private changing areas where apparently Trump just walks in, because and she's like changing. And she said that he then sexually accosted her in the changing room. This all plays into when you're famous, you can do what you want. It speaks to his mentality. Look, here's the deal. Do I believe that Donald Trump in this area was and I'm going to use words that were probably used to describe these behaviors back then. Was he a player? Oh, I bet he was. Was he a ladies' man? Oh, I bet he was. Do I think that Donald Trump wouldn't make a move on a hot chick when he's alone with her in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman in the 90s? Do I think that he wouldn't do that? No, I think that he would totally do that. I totally believe. Do I think this is true? Absolutely, I think it's true. I think he's like, hey, baby, and he probably pushed her up against a wall because he's a man of his era, and all of these things that used to be done very commonly are not things that are done anymore. And now in 2023, when put in front of a jury, these things constitute a level of sexual abuse and sexual battery that maybe hadn't been considered that in the time that they occurred. So that's what's happening here. Is Trump's historic behavior with women an indictment of the man today? Maybe. I mean, it shows his state of mind. It shows that he's one of these, he's the kind of guy, he's pinched some girls' asses, right? He's that generation of guy who thinks that it's all right to pinch a chick's ass. Maybe you do too, but I'll tell you who certainly doesn't think that, my 14-year-old son. So his generation that's coming up, they're very hands-off. It's a whole different ballgame out there. So yeah, when some of the behaviors of the past come back to haunt you in the present, is that just syrupy justice taking its time to ooze its way? Or, is it not fair? Isn't that the question? Isn't that the existential question of our age? Is it fair? Is it fair to hold people accountable for actions that occurred long ago during a time when our society was geared to accept things that they don't anymore? Is that fair to hold that person accountable for that? Yeah, why not? I don't care. Whatever. Whatever. Or is it justice? I think it might just be justice. The gears of justice turn slowly, they say. I don't know. Here's what I know for a fact. I know that I ain't never did nothing. So come on, bring whatever you got. You ain't going to find any of this stuff on me. Oh, and by the way, for 20 years between Chicago and here, I had a profile. I was on the radio. And there was people knew me. But most importantly, I always had like teams of young girls working under me. Always. I was always in charge of a whole bunch of interns. Whether I was a producer or later when I became a host and hosted my own shows, I always had all of these young people. And we socialized with all of these young people. There's not one of them. I'll give $1 million to one of them who could ever step forward with any evidence that I ever did anything inappropriate. I'm just not that guy. I'm just not a lechy guy anyway. So bring it. So, that's why I'm like, look, if you got something in your past that you're worried about, that sucks to be you, but I don't. Not sexually, anyway. I might have other things. They might find other categories to throw on me that I'm going to be like, what? That was 40 years ago. I'm a different person now. But you're not going to find any of the sex stuff. You're not going to find any, he raped a girl in 92 at a Van Halen concert. You're not going to find that. That's not anything. People like Trump, men of a different era, men of power and influence of a different era. I don't know. You might find a whole lot in their backgrounds. Also trending today, Trump Town Hall. Trump's got a town hall tonight on CNN. Ooh, this is going to be, I don't know what's going on. Fake news. What's going on here? What's going on here, Trump? What are you doing on CNN? Trump, hey, what are you doing on CNN? Thought they was fake news. I thought you didn't like these guys. Thought they was the worst. Well, here's what he's doing on CNN. He's rethinking that whole strategy because what he understands that on the national level is that he needs on some level to appeal to independents. He's got, look, the Trump MAGA, we love Trump. It is not growing, okay? It is not growing. There are those people, we love Trump. You got those people, the people of the villages. Dude you see at a Walmart walking around still wearing a red hat. Those people are already accounted for, okay? The thing is, there's a whole bunch of people in the middle, and all of those people in the middle, they're the ones that Trump needs to add from. And he can't do that unless he reaches normal. See, just normal people who are like above it all, they still watch CNN because they recognize that MSNBC is completely left and that Fox News is complete bullshit. So, normal people, they watch CNN, and that's why Trump is there. That's why Trump is going there. He needs to make a good impression on this middle America moderate. They think Tucker Carlson's a crazy blowhard. They think Rachel Maddow is a crazy blowhard. They go for the calm tones of an Anderson Cooper. Those are the people that Donald Trump needs to win. Because those are the people that he's vulnerable to. Because should some new guy come in, some new guy with a clean slate who doesn't carry all the baggage and the years and years of branding by the opposition that Trump carries, some new guy, maybe, I don't know, a DeSantis, some new guy suddenly shows up. He's not wearing the coat of all that baggage. So that person might be able to get some of those middle people votes. So Trump is now finding himself in a place where he needs to go to the one place where he knows those voters can be reached, and that's CNN. Even though for 6 years it was fake news, all of that stuff. But now he hates Fox News. So can't go to Fox News. And he sure as shit ain't going to MSNBC. Because MSNBC going to put him in a room with Rachel Maddow, and you know how that's going to go. Oh, would I pay for that? Oh, would I pay? But there's nothing to win there because Trump knows that anybody watching MSNBC is never in a million years going to vote for him. You can't say that for CNN. There might be some voters out there. So Trump's going to go. He's going to sit down with Caitlin Collins. Caitlin Collins was his preferred person. I think that's fine. Caitlin Collins is a CNN correspondent. She was the White House correspondent during the 4 years of the Trump White House. So she was the one in the room. She was doing battle with your Sarah Sanders and your Sean Spicers and your Kayleigh McEnany's. She was one of the big problems for Trump. The questions that she asked in that room was why fake news, CNN. I mean, he really went after her. But Caitlin Collins comes from the Tucker Carlson world. Caitlin Collins began her career as Tucker Carlson's assistant. She rose up to his producer. She worked at his website, not Daily Caller. That's like a really bad one. Or is that it? Daily Wire? I don't know, whatever it was. Whatever the site was that Tucker Carlson founded, that's where Caitlin Collins came from. She went to work with him on the show at Fox News. They started putting her on camera because she's hot. And she's articulate, and she paid her dues as an intern and producer and all that, and it was time for her to get on camera. She started to get some camera work, and then all of a sudden CNN hired her away from Fox News, and she becomes the Caitlin Collins of today. So, Caitlin Collins has a conservative background. She's a Christian, University of Alabama girl. She's kind of, I bet when she goes home to her family, she's surrounded by nothing but Trump, Trump voters. So for some reason, maybe because he had known her through all of these years, maybe there's some begrudging respect. Trump is a very interesting dude, man. You can never guess who he's going to want to talk to because this dude sits down and talks to Maggie Haberman every single day, and Maggie Haberman does nothing but just gut this guy. And then he said to me, and then she writes something stupid that he says. And then Trump tweets out something like, that Maggie Haberman, something like that. And then he talks to her a week later again. I don't get it. So it'll be interesting tonight. This is going to be the highest watched show on CNN in a very long time. Tonight, the Trump Town Hall, CNN. The guy that should be interviewing Donald Trump should be Anderson Cooper. It should be an Anderson Cooper thing. That would probably be the best. I do not have, I don't know, look, I don't want to undersell Kaylin Collins. I don't. Because right now, wherever Caitlin Collins is right now, she's prepping for this thing. Wherever she is right now, man, she is a bundle of nerves. Because she knows this is an extremely big moment. This is the biggest moment in her career. There are going to be more people watching her tonight on the Trump CNN town hall than anyone ever has. People are expecting her. Is she going to, when it's over, is she going to look on Twitter and it's all going to be, Caitlin Collins sucks at interviewing. Caitlin Collins didn't ask tough questions. Does she now feel compelled to ask difficult questions? And how will she handle the mercurial Trump? What if Trump, she's a beautiful young girl. She looks very innocent. I think she's like 31, 32 years old. She looks like the girl next door, the little cheerleader, the girl that everybody wants to protect and take care of. Is Trump going to be able to go off on her? If she asks a particularly difficult question, will Trump, an old man, be able to look down at this young all-American girl and say something wildly offensive and have people actually go, oh, that was justified? Trump can go after Jeb Bush all he wants, and we love it. But, can he do that to a woman? I don't know. Anyway, it'll be interesting. That's Trump's town hall. That's tonight on CNN. Well, Byron says CNN is dying, and this is a ratings grab. I don't know where you're getting your news. CNN is absolutely not dying. CNN is actually overbilling what they did previously. Chris Licht has turned it around from an economic standpoint. Now, you might say that they are dying from ratings, but guess what, my friend? Get your ass out of the ratings games. Ratings don't mean shit anymore. Ratings are based on television. People don't watch television. CNN is a brand, and their digital online coverage outpaces their TV rating. Yes, Fox News. Oh, Fox News has the biggest TV ratings. That's right, because you know who watches TV? 60-year-old people. That's who still watch TV. So from an advertising standpoint, yes, they have a large audience, but it's an audience that the advertisers don't want. Because 60-year-olds aren't buying anything new. 60-year-olds know what kind of beer they want. They know what kind of car they drive. All you're going to get with a giant audience of old people, which is what television ratings are dependent on, are Walgreens and .com pharmacies. That's pretty much it. No, CNN is actually killing it. They're actually doing, as far as impressions and being seen globally and worldwide, they're doing really well. Don't get caught up in TV ratings. God, that's so 20 years ago. Looking around at the radio, do you know the most successful radio stations in this market are not even in the top 10 most listened to radio stations? That's a fact. That is a fact. Because it's not about how many people are listening. It's about who of those people are listening. If you got a whole bunch of people listening that advertisers don't want to sell anything to because they're broke ass or they're not, interested in what you're peddling, that means nothing. But if you've got like 50 listeners and they're exactly the kind of listener that somebody wants, oh, you're going to be a success. So, yeah, CNN is not dying. I know that that's out there. You know who's dying? Who you could say is dying is Fox. Fox is having some real problems because they got all these new. They did a big press release a couple of days ago. They did a big story about how all of their advertisers that they had lost to Tucker were coming back. And then somebody wrote maybe it was Oliver Darcy. I don't want to misquote the wrong guy. But somebody wrote a companion piece after that. Well, yeah, they're back, but they're paying like 1/20th the rate. Like they're back, but they're paying nothing. Because who are they advertising with? You were able to charge a lot with Tucker. The whole idea of television news is over with. So they're all dying an equally bad death. But this is not desperate for CNN. This is a fucking coup for CNN that they were able to convince the Trump people to come over there and give them some of them ratings. And I'm not a defender of CNN. I think I've been pretty clear. I think that they're all pretty much garbage. But if I have to sit and stare at one, it will be CNN because I'm one of those middle people. How about this one? How about this story? This is, okay. Whoop, whoop. Train pulled into the station. Next stop, Obscuresville. Obscurityville. We'll be passing through O'Reilly Town and Obermanburg before we get to Tucker Carlson Obscuresville. Thank you. Tucker Carlson's going to take his show to Twitter, and he is going to be completely forgotten. I mean, I guess it's exciting, but here's the problem. Just as I just explained about the Fox News audience, Tucker Carlson's audience was 60 plus. Big time 60 plus. Old people. Old people. Hey, you know who ain't on Twitter? Old people. You know who still watch Fox News at 8 o'clock on schedule because they live their life that way and they still pay for cable and all that stuff? Old people. And again, you know where they're not? Twitter. They're not on Twitter. Tucker's going to have a Twitter audience. He's going to have a big Twitter audience. But it ain't going to be... Look, here's the problem. This has happened before. I said this. My advice to him would be do not hide behind a paywall. Because if you hide behind a paywall, you're dead. Howard Stern was one of the most influential people in American media. And then he hid behind a paywall at satellite radio, and nobody talks about him anymore. He's a joke now. He's been passed up by people like Joe Rogan, who offered his show for free. Joe Wall, he's behind a paywall right now with Spotify. I mean, I have Spotify, so he's behind a paywall. But he built his business for free. You know, Joe Rogan was huge and free before Spotify came in and made him crazy wealthy. Keith Olbermann did that. Keith Olbermann thinks, I'm still Keith Olbermann. Look at me doing my thing on Twitter. Keith Olbermann was huge on the left. He is completely insignificant now. Bill O'Reilly was giving advice. He was on some show giving advice to Tucker. Well, here's what he's got to do. He's got to do what I did. What I did was I started my own subscription platform. And Bill O'Reilly's saying this, and I'm going, got to do what you did? Dude, you were one of the biggest stars on TV, and this is the first time I've seen you in 10 years. What do you mean he's got to do what you did? So Tucker Carlson is talking about taking his show to Twitter, which could be very interesting. I am not going to necessarily be a pessimist, although I did just outline all of my concerns and why I wouldn't think this is necessarily a great move for him as Tucker Carlson. Let's be optimistic. Maybe this is the first of what will be an eventual sea change in how we use Twitter. Maybe Twitter at some point becomes like a place where they have all of these original shows. Or I don't know. But I do think this. He's going to go to Twitter. It'll be a very big Twitter thing at first. And then I just don't know. Tucker Carlson benefited from the military-like discipline of the audience that he had by the balls. Came on every night at the same time. They knew where he was going to be. Well, what day of the week? Is it Wednesday? That kind of order for the generation that he appealed to is very important. Twitter confuses. I just think there's going to be a problem here. And I know some of them. My grandma's on Twitter. Okay, all right. But we're talking about maybe 25% of people between the ages of 60 and 80. And I'm being incredibly generous when I'm saying 25% are on Twitter between the ages of 60 and 80. I'm being incredibly generous. But let's say 25%. So it used to be 100% of those people between 60 and 80 would just tune in on their cable and watch Tucker. So now what? 75% of that audience is gone. Can he make that 75% up with a new Twitter audience? I don't think so. But we'll see. Elon Musk, he sent out a thing yesterday after Tucker made his announcement. I'm going to Twitter. I'm going to do a video show on Twitter. That's what Tucker said yesterday. Elon Musk tweeted out a couple hours later that I don't have a deal with Tucker. We don't have a deal to do this, but you're welcome. You know, it was a friendly thing, but it was Elon Musk being like, hey, maybe they have been talking and negotiations aren't, I don't know, whatever. Just very strange, but we'll see. I am interested to see. However, if I was his money guy, I'd be like, baby, come on. ABC is offering you $150 million a year. What are you doing with the Twitter? That's cash in hand. Let's go. And also, let's not forget, he's going to have to give up $25 million a year Like, this is not a done deal either. So he's still under contract to Fox News. He's being paid $25 million a year for the next until January of 2025. So that means they want to keep him off the air. They're just going to pay him his money. He can go to hang out at the beach. Go hang out at the beach for the next 2 years. That's what Fox News wants. He wants to come back and do a show on Twitter, but he's got this contract, doesn't allow him to do that. So I think we're a little ways off. I think it's going to have to play out in court. However, Tucker Carlson might just do a show. He might just go, woo, let's roll the dice. Let's let it play out in court after. It's better to ask for permission. That's what he's be thinking. Inflation. What's going on with inflation? We got some inflation numbers that came out. Let's take a look at this nonsense, shall we? Inflation rose 4.9% in April. Inflation rate eases to 4.9 in April, less than expectations, but it still went up. This is the bullshit of money reporting. Let's not panic the morons. Let's make sure we write it in a way that they've got some hope, because we wouldn't want to run on banks, or we wouldn't want to be the... So these are just fucking lies. Inflation rate eases to 4.9% in April. It only went up. They thought it would go up more than that. It was less. It was less than they expected. I mean, it still went up. That's not good. But it's less than they expected. I'm so tired of these stories. Stop acting like everything's fine. Get inflation stabilized. How about that? How about, give me a couple of months. Give me a couple of months this summer where gas prices are around $2.50. That's not that crazy. That is not that crazy. $2.50 should be where we're at. I'm willing to pay $2.50 a gallon. Tired of this. 1 week it's like, $2.70, and then the next week it's $3.40. The hell is going on? Stupid. Okay, MTV News is trending. MTV News. Remember that? Did I just bring back some memories? There we go. MTV News is being closed up by parent company Paramount. MTV News. I'm Kurt Loder. I'm really boring, and I'm, never going to smile, and I'm trying to do this like a real newsman, except I got a bag of weed in my pocket, and that makes me different. That was kind of Kurt Loder's whole vibe. They brought him in. He was a Rolling Stone editor. They brought him in, and they said, we're going to cover news of music the way we'd cover, the way CNN covers news of news. Who do we have? We had Kurt Loder. I'm Kurt Loder. We had Kurt. Okay, so I guess if we're talking about MTV News, my MTV News people are only two people. Maybe three. No, it's two. It's Kurt Loder and it's Tabitha Soren. That's right. They're the only two that I recognize. Kurt Loder and Tabitha Soren. They're the Walter Cronkite and Barbara Walters of MTV News. Kurt Loder, Tabitha Soren. And MTV News, MTV News had a role, a very big role. They were a legit thing. There are moments that I remember vividly from that period of time between, high school, college, through college, and young 20s, where, I remember my memories of these earthquakes defined by the coverage on MTV News. Whether we're talking about the death of Kurt Cobain, the riots in St. Louis at the Guns N' Roses show. I remember watching that, and MTV News cover that. Do you remember Woodstock 99 and the coverage of that? Yeah, MTV News, man. MTV News did some real stuff. They did some real interesting stuff. And now nobody cares about that anymore, and Kurt Loder's like 80, so bye-bye, MTV News. Remember, that was it? It was like... It was like MTV News. Good evening, I'm Kurt Loder at MTV News. Shocking news out of Seattle today as Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain. That was big, man. I remember that. Whoo. What else do we have here? Westminster Dog Show. The Westminster Dog Show. Who doesn't love the dog show? You ever been to a dog show? Look, I like dogs. I don't like fancy, stupid dogs. And dog show dogs are absolutely fancy, stupid dogs. But I still like to watch the dog shows. I still like the little prancing. They're prancing around. Best in Show. Have you ever seen Best in Show? Have you ever seen the movie Best in Show? Oh, it's tremendous. It's so funny. It's one of those Chris Guest movies. You know, like it's in the same universe and in the same family lineage of Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show. So funny. So what are we talking about? Westminster Dog Show concluded last night. The Best in Show winner for this year at the so they've got like breed categories like best hunting dog, best, whatever. They do all these breed categories. And then on the final night, it's, all right, enough with this breed. Pound for pound. Which one of these dogs is the best dog in the world right now? That's basically what it is. So this year's, what do they call it? Best in Breed champion, the best dog, the grand champion of the Westminster Dog Show is Buddy Holly. That's right, Buddy Holly, the Petite Basset Griffon Vendine. What kind of dog is that? She's a Petite Basset Griffon Vendine. I don't want that dog. I want a Basset Hound. A Basset Hound I'll take. I don't want it. And this doesn't look like a Basset Hound. It looks like a Schnauzer. This dog just looks like a Schnauzer. Cute, because all dogs are cute. Except mine. Mine tried to jump out a second-story window a couple of nights ago. I don't know if I've told all of you, but I can't get over it. It was the worst experience of my life. It was 3 minutes of absolute horror, me trying to... The dog was hanging out the second-story window. I caught her by the collar and by her two arms, and she's dangling. And I'm trying to pull her up, and she's like a 70-pound Catahoula. She's all muscle. Oh, my God, it was crazy. She would have died. Still mad. I'm still mad that she put me through that. We did the thing, like, as soon as I, threw her through the window, I gave her a big hug, and I was like, are you okay? Are you okay? A big hug. So we're okay in the moment, oh, I'm so glad you're okay. But I've been pissed at her for 2 days since, because now all I can do is think about how stupid she was. I can't have this dog in a car anymore. This dog cannot be trusted not to jump out of a window of a moving car. This dog has proven to me that she has poor judgment. Yeah, she knows. She knows I'm talking to her. Anyway, Westminster Dog Show. That ended last night. Buddy Holly, the Petite Basset Griffon, has been named Best in Show. So, there you go. I'd like to show you a picture of it, but, we're having difficulty with the sharing and all that stuff, so we're going to ignore that. Okay, so here's something that's interesting. There's a bill here in Texas drag bill. I'm going to go over this because, here in Texas, it's like drag shows are the biggest threat facing our children in Texas today is obviously an odd, small part of the gay community that gathers for brunch on Sundays and does story time. That is the greatest threat to our children today in Texas, so you better believe the legislature is all over it. The legislature, how many children have been gunned down in drag shows over the past couple of weeks? Just ask yourself that. That's why it's so... House version of Texas drag ban bill strips mention of drag queens ahead of the next debate. Okay, so there's a bill. So it's called the Drag Queen Bill. Why? Because they want people in the community to know that they're hating on drag people. That's good, because we hate drag people too. So that's why they name it that. But within the actual bill, because they know they're going to have to try and get it passed, all mention of drag shows and drag queens and all that stuff has been stripped. And this bill, the wording has been replaced by, I'll read it to you, okay? In Austin, a bill pitched as a way to ban children from drag shows. The bill will no longer include language specifically targeting performers who dress as the opposite sex. Senate Bill 12 would bar anyone under the age of 18 from attending sexually oriented events. So, drag shows have been replaced in the second writing of this bill that is down there in the Texas legislature. Drag shows in this bill, remember this is an anti-drag show bill. That's what it's being called, anti-drag show bill. In the actual bill, the words "we're banning drag shows" does not appear, and they have been replaced with sexually oriented events. Okay, so Senate Bill 12 will bar anyone under the age of 18 from attending sexually oriented events and open up the performers to criminal penalties. So if you are a sexually oriented performer and you are performing in front of a child, you are going to face penalties. To which I say, of course! Isn't that already illegal? You can't whip your dick out in front of a kid and call it a performance. Isn't that already illegal? This is very smart. This is very interesting. Because let's say I was a representative here in Texas and I'm down there in the legislature and I'm not one of these crazy Abbott people and I'm also not one of these crazy other people. I'm an independent and I'm sitting there in the middle here. This is how I'm going to vote for this bill. I vote for this bill now. You put this in front of me and it says here is a bill that is going to make it illegal for anyone under the age of 18 to attend a sexually oriented event. If you put that bill in front of me, I'm going to say, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. It should be illegal for children to attend sexually oriented events. Now, if we're going to continue the conversation, I'm going to tell you that I think that sexually oriented events should be allowed to continue. I don't think we should be looking at banning sexually oriented events, but that's not what this bill is. This bill is about banning children from attending sexually oriented events. Now, you see the little shell game that's going on here because the bill has been promoted and is titled to make people think this is specifically about the drag community. But the people who are behind the bill know that they can't get that passed. Because the independents, the guy I just described, who's not either on crazy side, the independent isn't going to vote for that drag thing because the independents understand that that's just a fucking red herring. That is a stupid straw man thing designed to gin low information people up. That's what that's all about. So they're not going to vote for that. They're not going to get into that nonsense. So it's dead on arrival without them. But now the bill doesn't say that. Now the bill says it would bar anyone under the age of 18 from attending sexually oriented events. And I ask you, who's going to be against that? Who's going to be against that? So a bill that is called the Drag Show Ban Bill, I don't know what the exact verbiage is, but a bill that's called that is going to include no language that says the drag shows are banned. Now what this does is it extends the argument and it allows for a lot more TV time for people, allows a lot more opportunities to go on TV because now the debate is, are drag shows sexually oriented? Oh! People going to get on Laura Ingraham for the next couple of months on this topic. It's all a shell game. We're all being worked. There is nobody in their right mind that thinks children should be allowed to freely attend sexually oriented events. There's not a normal person on the planet who thinks that. So let's stop acting like half of us think that's okay, because half of us do not think that's okay. That's stupid. However, most of us, a lot of... never mind, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to shut my mouth now. I know when to move on. How about birth control? Birth control is trending. Birth control. Man, men love birth control. That puts it all on the women. We got no problem, whatever. You on the pill? Yeah. All right, if you're lying and you get pregnant... It's not much. Don't come call. That's kind of thing. We get to wash our hands with the pill. Well, it's on her. She said she was taking care of it. The FDA seems skeptical of push for birth control pill without a prescription. So there's this new birth control pill that's coming on the market. And this is interesting because I thought this was already a thing, but apparently birth control is still prescription only. Honestly, I'd have thought that for the last 20 years. Birth control stopped being prescription only. Because isn't the morning after pill? Can't you just walk in and get a morning after pill? I mean, is that a prescription? I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works because I'm not a sexual monster. I have no experience with any of these things. So here's the story. The Food and Drug Administration's independent experts are meeting to make a recommendation on whether the FDA should approve over-the-counter sales of birth control medication for the very first time. HRA Pharma, that's the name of the company that's got this over-the-counter birth control. HRA Pharma expects an FDA decision on over-the-counter sales of its contraceptive Opal this summer. This according to a company spokesperson. The FDA staff has raised concerns about the data submitted by the company. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. Does it work or does it not work? First, I don't think that the idea that a young woman who is embracing her sexual appetite, she's learning who she is, the idea that a young woman must explain this to a stranger, be it a doctor, be it a pharmacist, whatever. That idea is just, it's absurd. It's, I understand the argument that says that this is just another way that a woman's body's being controlled. That is a complete thing. I totally get that. You want to just be a woman, you're an 18, 19-year-old girl, maybe you're going off to college, you're going to start to experience the world as a free and liberated female. But you got to go talk to the dude that delivered you first and tell him that you're thinking about sleeping around this summer. That's not, there's no reason that birth control pills need to be prescription. People should be able to use them and not use them. But apparently the FDA moving slowly on this new possible over-the-counter birth control pill. You know what the problem is with the over-the-counter birth control pill is? We talk a lot on this show about Dollar Tree, Dollar General. I love the dollar stores. Well, I used to. I've got a very complicated relationship with the discount dollar stores these days. But sometimes I'll buy like ibuprofen, and sometimes I'll buy some vitamins, because they're very cheap, and you get a whole bottle for like $1, $1.25 now, whatever. Don't get me started on that. But they say that like sometimes like the dollar store stuff, that's just bullshit. It doesn't work. See, so what if now the dollar store starts offering like, an over-the-counter, like in 10 years, like there's a dollar store version of an over-the-counter birth control. And it's not birth control. Now you got people getting pregnant. I don't know, I see problems. Although, come on, let's be honest. Birth control should absolutely be over the counter. Here's a story about a crazy wife that I wanted to mention. I like this one. All right. So there's this woman. Did you hear this story? This story has been building for 2 days. I think I first saw it on Sunday night. And then I saw that it was trending for a little while yesterday. And then this morning, all of the mainstream news is now talking about it. And I'm like, this story's been around for like 2 days now. Mainstream news is just it's like, Jesus, you're not really into breaking stories, are you? You're just stealing stories off TikTok. Because this was a story that came from, I think, TikTok or whatever. But now it's a real story, and now actual people are writing about it. Here, this comes from the New York Post. So there's this woman whose husband died, and it was very sad. Very sad. Young, beautiful woman. Young, beautiful family. They had money. They seemed to be, they seemed to be on their way up. Everything looked to be absolutely great. Husband dies tragically. The woman becomes sort of a poster child almost for dealing with the grief, the loss of a spouse or a loved one. She writes a book. She writes a children's book, how to explain to the children that mommy or daddy is dead. She becomes this, celebrity in her own right in this whole world of grief. Yeah, it turns out she killed her husband. She killed him. Police are like, you poisoned him to death. You poisoned him, and then you played the role of the merry widow. You played the role of this philosophical, this woman who was wise beyond her years. You wrote this book. You went on TV shows. You gave interviews. Oh, you were so evolved. You killed him. She killed him. Widow who wrote grief book after her husband died has been charged with his murder. A Utah widow, excuse me, a Utah widow who penned a grief book for children in the wake of her husband's tragic death has been charged with his murder, according to authorities. Mom of three, Corey Darden Richens, 33, of Summit County, was arrested on Monday for allegedly poisoning her husband. Let's see. She's charged with first-degree aggravated murder and 3 counts of second-degree possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. I don't know that that's true. So here's how it went down. Okay, so on their honeymoon. So let's go back because this story goes on. So they get married 10 years ago or something like that, and they're on their honeymoon. And on their honeymoon, the husband calls his sister. The husband is very close with his sister, right? Husband and sister. They're brother and sister, and they're very close. So the husband's on his honeymoon, and he goes out and he calls his sister, and they start talking, and he says that he felt sick to his stomach. This is on their honeymoon. He feels sick to their stomach. He feels sick to his stomach, and he's like, maybe it's something I ate over here, and blah blah blah, or that's what the sister says. Maybe it's something you ate. And then the husband on the honeymoon says to the sister on the phone, I don't know. Kari made me something, and I feel like it was right after I took it that now I feel like I'm real. She poisoned him on the honeymoon. It was a test run but maybe she thought the book would have more zing if her husband died on the honeymoon. I don't know, but apparently 9 years earlier is one. So over the course of the next few years, apparently the marriage began to decline, although they were keeping up appearances publicly. The night before he was found dead, or the night he died, she had made him a special teaching, and they know about this because apparently the husband, who was dead in a couple hours, talked to his sister again and said that, oh yeah, I'm drinking this tea. She made me some special tea. It tastes a little weird. So it's the second time with the sister that he has mentioned that, sometimes I get this stuff from her and it ain't right. Well, he was dead 5 hours later. And she found the body and she hysterically called 911 and, oh, my husband she poisoned him with fentanyl. It was fentanyl. She went out and bought a bunch of fentanyl and just made him fentanyl tea. And then that's how he died. And that they're charging her with intent to distribute. I don't know. Was she trying to distribute fentanyl? I don't think that. I think she's just a crazy bitch who had an idea to write a book. She thought, wow, if my awful husband was dead, people would think, oh, that poor widow. She played that game. And it damn well almost worked for her. Nope. She's charged with first-degree aggravated murder and 3 counts of second-degree possession of a controlled substance. Police arrived at their home at about 3:20 a.m. on the night of Eric's death to find him lying at the foot of their shared bed. Life-saving measures were attempted, but Eric was declared deceased. Corey allegedly told police that she had made her husband a mixed vodka drink, a Moscow Mule, and served it to him in bed to celebrate his sale of a home for their business. Apparently they were in the home flipping business. She told investigators she then fell asleep with one of their kids who was having a nightmare. All right, so here's some more backstory on this. So almost immediately, police were looking at her. Before she wrote the book about being a grief person, before she started going on radio shows and being interviewed about grief and all that stuff, the police were already looking at her because she did some weird shit. Okay, dude died. Remember she said, I made him a Moscow Mule to celebrate the sale of, whatever. They were in a house flipping game. Sold a house for $2 million. So they basically made $2 million. And they were celebrating that. So she made him the Moscow Mule. He's dead. He died. Her husband dies 2 nights later, or actually 1 night later. So he died the next day. It was the next day. So 24 hours, 36 hours after her husband dies, she throws a big party at their house to celebrate the sale of the $2 million house. And the police apparently were watching and they're like, this is weird. So they started investigating, and it's taken all of this time. It's taken a while. She told police that she left her. Oh, let's see. Corey, she told investigators the Moscow Mule, and then she fell asleep with one of their kids who was having a nightmare in a different room. Corey said she awoke around 3 a.m. and came back to her husband Eric's bedroom. She said she felt Eric and that he was cold to the touch. This is when she called 911. She told police she left her cell phone in the couple's bedroom, but phone records show that her phone, her device, had been used multiple times in the child's bedroom. So while he's dying, she poisons him, he's dying, she's in the child's bedroom hanging out with the child. She's apparently texting somebody, even though she then claims to police that, no, I didn't have the phone in there. Yeah, you were on the phone in there. You were texting somebody. Who are you texting? Apparently she's got a boyfriend. The reason I'm fascinated by this story is because the other night, I began watching the new HBO Max series. What's it called? It's Elizabeth Olsen. It's about that Candy Maldonado lady who killed... I don't know what it's called. Anyway, I'm not ready to talk about it anyway. It's good. It's good only because Elizabeth Olsen is like the greatest thing going. I really do. I really think Elizabeth Olsen is about... And it's got that Jesse Plemons. You know that guy? Jesse Plemons, who looks like... He looks like Matt Damon if Matt Damon was a shrinky-dink that was left in the oven a little too long. That guy, Jesse Plemons, is in it. He's terrific. What's it called? Lovin' something? I don't know. It's good. Elizabeth Olsen. You know how I feel about my Chastain. I got my Chastain, and then I got my Olsen. And I got my Johansson. My Johansson is in there. It's my list of favorite actresses. All right, we can be done with this crazy lady. She killed her husband. Wrote a book about it. Played the widow. Had a boyfriend the whole time. Now she's going to jail. Because they will catch you. Especially, could you imagine that? Can you imagine your husband dies and you still go through with a party 2 nights later at your house to celebrate a monetary gain? Woo! Oh yeah, my husband's dead and my children lost their father and all that. But man, did we have a good month. Cheers! Right? That's weird. That's weird. That's somebody who's, I don't know, processing things strangely. And as the mother of 3, you would like to think that she's in a little bit more control. She's a bit more of a, she's not going through with the house party to celebrate the sale of the flip house. What else do we have here? Cruise creep. Here we go. That's right. I wanted to talk about this because you know how I hate cruising. And I don't mean the activity of gay men. What is cruising? What is it? Cruising is like where gay men... Like rest stops? Isn't that like a rest stop thing? I'm going cruising at the rest stop. Gonna see if I can meet a friend. No, cruising. I mean getting on a boat and like being on a boat forever. You want to go on a cruise? No, I do not want to go on a cruise. God, that seems awful. Okay, so you know how like near any airport, there's like a Ramada Inn? There's like, okay, it's probably like, 5 or 6 stories. It might be the tallest building in the immediate area. It's not a downtown hotel, but it's close to the airport. It's a Ramada. Maybe it's a Holiday Inn, but that's it. At best, it's a Ramada or a Holiday Inn. That's what a cruise ship is. That is the level of luxury that you can expect on a cruise ship. And oh yeah, wait for it, you can never leave the grounds. So imagine that Ramada, you're just stuck. You can't even go in the parking lot because the parking lot is the ocean. So you just got to stay in that funky bed. And they're like, but you can eat all the buffet you want. And the food is garbage. Oh, it was delicious. Right. Try the potato salad. There are more bacterium and more. That's gross. No, it's beautiful. They have pools and water slides. So does every suburb in America. Every suburb in America has a water park as cool as the one that you're going to have there. Stop acting like water parks on boats are some big draw. There are water parks everywhere. We don't need them on boats. Oh, but you got entertainment. The entertainment on boats suck. If the people on boats doing entertainment were entertaining at all, they wouldn't be on boats. So I don't like cruising. And there's always, like one guy starts coughing, and you're like, oh, geez, why are we going to be stuck in port for 90 days because this guy's got a weird cough? They're going to let us back in. I don't need that. That's like, you're just, you people are looking at cruising wrong. You're looking at cruising like, oh, it's magical. We get on a boat and we see things. No, you don't. You see the same thing. You see the same thing. Open water. You see the same thing forever. That's it. What you're really doing is you're just getting in like this floaty tin can, paying a whole bunch of money and pretending like it's the height of opulence. Look at us cruising the seven seas. Ugh. It's an airport ramada with better food and a water park. That's all it is. That's all cruising is. Here's another thing cruising is. Man accused of installing hidden cameras in public bathrooms on Royal Caribbean cruise ships. So multiple ones. That's right. If you've taken a deuce in a Royal Caribbean public bathroom, you're probably on the internet somewhere. It's another reason not to go cruising. Hell, I'll tell you this. I would rather do the gay cruising than do the open water cruising. I don't need that. I don't want to do either. But I'm telling you, I have no interest in going on a cruise. It's got a water park. There's a water park within walking distance of everywhere I've lived for the last 20 years. A water park is not a draw. The FBI's San Juan division is working to identify potential victims after a man was charged with video voyeurism and attempted possession of child exploitation material. He allegedly installed hidden cameras in public restrooms on Royal Caribbean cruise ships. Probably had them all going to the same source. Oh, God. Ugh. I don't want to be stuck in close quarters with a bunch of people who look at the whole thing of cruising and go, that sounds like fun. I don't want to be with those people. Here's the other thing. I also kind of have this same vibe with ski resorts. Like people are like, let's go to Aspen. Let's go to the ski resort. Like, but my issue there is like I've been to a number of like ski resorts and these kinds of things, and I'm not a big skier. You know, I'm more of a sledder. Like you give me a sled, that'd be great. I'd like to use a sled on some of those hills. But the difference is like, they have these lounges and these restaurants and stuff, and those are really fun. So, like, I've been to, like, the last time I went to a nice ski resort, I hung out in the lounge. And I guess you could say, well, that's kind of like, hold on. Hold on, I got to take this call. We'll be right back. All right. Sorry about that. We're back. That was an important call that I had to take. So those of you who may, excuse me, those of you who hang out with us at night, we know that we do the nighttime show. We do Pugs, Parker, E, and sometimes Key. Keynote's going to be joining us from time to time, too. Excuse me. Well, that was E. And, we're boat people. We're lake people. We have this whole life up there at Lake Louisville. There's ongoing drama up there with our slip, with where we keep our boat. It's our boat. It's E's boat. It's E's stuff. But, I feel like if he's the captain, I'm Gilligan. I feel like, Anyway, so there's a lot of drama up there with the boat, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So we're trying to arrange for a time or a day to spend up there at the dock. And so, programming note, we're going to take the show off on Friday. We are going to take the show off on Friday, so there will not be a show on Friday. We just we decided Friday's going to be the day we're going to have to just move everything. We're going to have to spend all day out there. It'll be good times. So I apologize for that. But hey, if you're talking about, wow, you promised us, this many hours. I did 3.5 hours last night. Or no, 3.5 hours yesterday. 3.5 hours yesterday. Come on, we'll make up it. I'm not done now. We're already into bonus time on today's show. Look at us. Look at us go. And I'm not done. So I do apologize. There won't be a show on Friday. There might be a special show Friday night, though. Maybe I'll do something special Friday night. We'll see, because, I love doing the shows and want to make everybody happy because the show runs on your tips. That's right. You can check us out. You can help us out. Cash App, Venmo, Pugs Moran on both of those things. Drop a little something in the tip jar. It would certainly go a long way to help us continue doing these shows. We do the Monday through Friday show here, high noon, trending topics, hot topics, headlines, current events. That's what we cover here. And then we do the 9 o'clock show, Monday through Thursday. It's Pugs Parker with E and Key. All of those things are, they exist because you guys think, what, they should exist. Here you go. Here's a little something in the Cash App. Here's a little something in the Venmo. And we say, thank you, kind people. All right. That's all. We don't need to know anymore, right, about the creeper who was putting cameras in the cruise ship. That's where we left off. The man identified as Jeremy Frohas boarded the Harmony of the Seas in Miami, and while the cruise ship was navigating in international waters, he installed a hidden Wi-Fi camera in a public bathroom on the ship's top deck between a surfing simulator and a bar. Okay, so here's what he did. He installed a hidden Wi-Fi camera in a public bathroom. Okay. So I wonder where he hid it. And how did they find it? It must have been hidden very poorly, yes? I don't know how. Several days later, a passenger noticed the hidden camera and reported it to Harmony's crew. Security personnel searched the bathroom and found and seized the hidden camera. According to the criminal complaint, security personnel found a micro SD card with several hours worth of video files inside. So how did they find the guy who put it there? The FBI has posted a form online seeking potential victim information. If you and or your minor dependents were victimized by Jeremy Frohas or have information relevant to this investigation, please fill out the short form, it says. All right, so there you go. Go on a cruise. Sure. Of things that I've told you about a cruise, all of them are true. What is the good thing about a cruise? You tell me what you can do on a cruise that you can't do in Cancun, that you can't do in Acapulco, that you can't do in the Bahamas. I mean, no thank you. Well, I just like the laying around, and I like that, you can lay in the sun. First of all, you can lay in the sun in your own damn backyard. And if you want to lay in the sun in a beautiful location, might I suggest Cozumel? And you're not stuck on a boat. God, I'd go nuts. I need to take a walk. Walk around the top deck. No. I want to get a cab and I want to go exploring. That's traveling. Cruising is not traveling. Cruising is awful. Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy is trending. Y'all remember Greg Hardy? You've got to be a football hero. He is not a football hero. He's a football, but he is not a hero. Greg Hardy was a Dallas Cowboy. He was a very good football player. Carolina Panther, became a Dallas Cowboy. Greg Hardy, he beat up women, right? When that is thing, he puts his hands on the ladies, and so that kind of upended his NFL career. He was disgraced NFL player Greg Hardy. And then he went into MMA fighting. And he was, because Greg Hardy's like a real intense guy. I'm Greg Hardy. I'm a real badass. And he went into MMA and he was terrible. And he got his clock cleaned in every fight that he was in. I'm Greg Hardy. I'm a badass. Until you fight somebody who actually knows how to fight. But what do you mean I've been training? You've been training for 90 days. Okay, you're going up against a guy who earned his first black belt 10 years ago. He is going to beat the crap out of you. Look at how much bigger I am. I'm a world-class athlete. Anyway, Greg Hardy's not doing MMA anymore. He's like, that ain't for me. That takes a level of discipline. Actually, that is something that he said that I think he deserves credit for. When he was talking about why he's no longer interested in pursuing a career in MMA, he said that because it requires a level of discipline and expertise that I simply am too old to acquire. That is absolutely true. So good for him. Good for him for realizing that. But Greg Hardy is trending because apparently you can catch him. Actually, I don't know if you can. That's a bit dishonest. Greg Hardy, like many young athletes, find themselves post-playing career with absolutely zero skills. Zero real-world skills. Greg Hardy's never held a job in his life. Greg Hardy went from being a college player to a pro player. He's never had a job that didn't involve him doing wind sprints, okay? So now he's a young man. He's still in his 30s, and he's got to get a job. So he created a video. He did it himself. He made a video. I think this was on Friday of last week, where he was reporting to his new job. And his new job, Greg Hardy's new job, at least on Friday, was as a Spectrum salesperson stationed at a Garland Walmart. So you go to a Walmart and they have these little tables set up. Excuse me, sir, can I talk to you about? Well, if you were accosted by a gigantic black dude at the Garland, that was Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy was out there selling Spectrum. Why? Well, he explained on the video. It was actually a pretty funny video. He's walking through the parking lot. He's holding the camera and he's going, hey, I just want to explain what's going on here. He said that, he's looking for some real world experience. He's looking to do some things that he doesn't have any experience with. So he went to a friend who runs a marketing company. And, he sat down with his buddy. He said, look, I need some experience. And his buddy gave him this job. He sent him to a Garland Walmart and made Greg Hardy. Oh, Greg Hardy wasn't happy. He was like, I'm quitting this job. This ain't something that I want. It's very funny. It was a very funny video. So anyway, people are now, Greg Hardy is trending because, Greg Hardy blew all his money and now he's got to work. That ain't true. That ain't true at all. I know that you can make that leap. Oh, look. He's not broke. He's 33 and doesn't know what he's going to do with the next 30 years and has no experience, so he's got to start at the bottom. But people, a lot of people want to go, don't you know that? He's someone that you want to have lost all his money because he did beat up women and he did seem like kind of a dickhead. But no, it's he had been humbled. His buddy sent him to a Walmart to sell these Spectrum subscriptions, and he's Greg Hardy, former big-time NFL player, still a young man, and he felt a little embarrassed, and now everybody's making fun of him. Pat McAfee. Boy, let's talk about this one. I like this one. This story broke yesterday. Pat McAfee, who, in my opinion, is he's currently the best sports media personality in America. He has completely reinvented the game. He's fresh. He's new. He's totally doing it a different way. There's a lot to make fun of there. You can make fun of him. You can do whatever it is. Doesn't matter. He doesn't care. He's a friggin' good guy. I mean, the vibe that he has created on his show, it's a very meathead vibe. You got to be okay with the meathead element, but they work in the sports world. So it's very much like a locker room, like a bunch of meathead guys. But they're all like good guys. They're all like nice guys. There isn't mean. They don't shit on people. And when they do shit on people, it's funny. And it's not quite the way maybe, Howard Stern back in 95 would shit on people. Anyway, I'm a big fan of Pat McAfee as a personality. I'm a big fan of Pat McAfee as a digital content creator. I'm a big fan of Pat McAfee on a whole bunch of things. And it turns out he's got a deal with FanDuel. FanDuel pays his company $120 million a year, $120 million a year for him to stream his show on YouTube. Hey, I'm over here trying to stream on YouTube, and I'm soliciting for tips. Pat McAfee has a FanDuel. FanDuel's $120 million. But that deal comes up for renewal every year, and every year there've been talk about, is FanDuel going to renew? What is McAfee going to... It doesn't matter if FanDuel doesn't renew. There's other people that will. But this time it's different because there are multiple reports that earlier in the week, at the end of last week on Friday, Pat McAfee met privately with Bob Iger. Bob Iger is meeting with Pat McAfee. And I say they met privately until Pat McAfee started, doing the selfies, him and Bob Iger in the office. Look at us hanging out today, So McAfee started that out with the pictures of him and Iger hanging in Iger's office. Why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because Pat McAfee is just some sports guy on YouTube, and Bob Iger is the most powerful man in entertainment. Bob Iger is the president and the CEO of the Disney Corp. Bob Iger is in charge of everything from ESPN to Star Wars to the Marvel Universe he is Disney. And when Pat McAfee meets with a Bob Iger, they are not talking about Pat McAfee coming over and joining ESPN. That's not what they're talking about. If Bob Iger is talking to Pat McAfee, if Pat McAfee is up in those offices, they're talking about The Rock. They're talking about movies. They're talking about how Bob Iger, if Pat McAfee comes over and signs with Disney, how Bob Iger can not only promote him with the sports brand ESPN as the biggest guy in ESPN, but this is what Bob Iger doesn't mess around with who the next host of SportsCenter is. That is not why Bob Iger is now involved in the recruiting of Pat McAfee. Bob Iger is the guy who can say, well, we're gonna make 5 movies. I'm trying to think who's Stretch Armstrong. There you go. You remember Stretch Armstrong? Remember that toy from the 70s? Stretch Armstrong. Bob Iger could sit there with Pat McAfee and say, look, we just recently acquired the rights to Stretch Armstrong. We're going to turn it into a 5-picture deal. We want you, Pat McAfee, to be Stretch Armstrong. That's the kind of shit that Bob Iger gets involved in. So there's this very, very big, in media circles right now, this is the biggest story going. As Pat McAfee refers to it on the show, where he talks about his contract situation, and everything he says has to be taken with a grain of salt because he is in negotiation mode. But it's very exciting. It's very exciting for somebody who made the decisions that he made in his life, and to see them pay off this way, and not only pay off for him financially. I mean, look, he's already got a few money. He's been making $120 million a year for the last couple of years. He's fine there. But as far as him being an influence, as far as him being an important person in the sports media landscape, that's what the Disney thing will do. He'll always be a YouTuber. He'll always be a guy who can make guest appearances on wrestling events, and he can show up on college football game day from time to time. But he'll always be that silly little man from over there, unless he joins full-time with ESPN. Then we'll see what he becomes. Then we'll see what they do. But again, if he is spending time with Bob Iger, they ain't talking about, him being the new host of Around the Horn. Okay, that is not Bob Iger's interests. That is not where he plays. Let's see here. What else do we... let me check. That's it. We're pretty much out of stuff that I have prepared to talk about today. But no, that does not mean we are done, because things are always popping off in this crazy world. Let's see here. You know what's trending? Ted Lasso is trending. Ted Lasso is trending. Apple TV's Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso season 1. That might be the finest single season of television I've ever seen. Ted Lasso season 1 was almost perfect. Unexpected. And then it just sneaks up on you and you're like, oh my God, I'm actually affected by a TV show. So Ted Lasso season 1. Ted Lasso's trending because it sucks now. That show, look, I was the biggest Ted Lasso fan in the world. That show kind of sucks now. And, when Nate went gray, when Nate's hair suddenly turned gray and Nate turned into a bad guy, that's when Ted Lasso jumped the shark. I credit Ted Lasso in the first season, Jason Sudeikis. I credit him for going through that terrible break of Ted Lasso, and there was authenticity, what he was going through, because the character of Ted, oh my God, perfect. Character of Ted Lasso, a big ball. Trying again. I guess we're back. Might as well just end the show here today. Let's just say oh, they're right there. Road. That's 1-3 road in deck suite 22, suite 522. Give them a call. 0. That's 469-9519. Oh my God! Excuse me. I think hail to fly. No, I don't want to leave. I want to leave the